I'm Chris from Airwindows, and hey, you can do this. Let's turn the thing on. Because this is Airwindows Pockey. Pockey is the most recent form of plugins like DeRez and BitGlitter. And the purpose behind Pockey is to simulate the kind of lo-fi, hip-hop, low-bit kind of thing that you can get out of hardware of various kinds. It is based here, as we can see, in Airwindows style. The controls go from 0 to 1. But I can tell you what they are representing. Much like DeRez, etc., these are analog style bit crushers and frequency crushers, in that it is not a kind of fixed point bit setup like you can do 8.5 bits kind of thing. You dial it in as you need. D-Freak starts at, I'm not entirely sure what it starts at, but this is a high frequency frequency crush, and DeRez starts at specifically 12 bits uLaw. And that is similar to what you get off of your classic Teenage Engineering pocket operators. As a result, since the freq is rather high and the DeRez is rather high, we're recording at 96K. And we can hear the sound of this music. And then when I turn it on, it's not super obvious unless you've manipulated the controls. For instance, here's the sound of our background noise as we have it. And then I'll engage Pockey. And everything's a little tiny bit more low bit without it getting really obvious. I'll turn it back off. I mean, this is a bunch of analog recordings, so you're really hearing any amount of digital being added to it. Turn it back on. Now, as we start increasing the bit depth from 12 bits, we start to hear a little more of that fuzz. But since this is not integer bit shifting, you can fade it in and out. And since this is uLaw encoded and decoded, the sound quality of the 12 bits is actually quite high. But because uLaw encoding, because I'll take a moment to explain what that does. That kind of encoding means that quiet sounds are pumped up before being bit crushed and then expanded back out again. And what that's going to do is you get effectively more like a high resolution sound on quiet noises. It'll scale down farther than a regular 12-bit might. But then the louder noises have a little extra crunch added to them in an interesting way. And we can hear it here. Without and with. You can kind of hear it on that snare, which also has a bit of clap in it. That is a combination of modules in there. This song, by the way, is from my new album. It's a Solenoid Strut, and it's doing a pretty decent job of demonstrating the plugin. Listen to the clap. Without and with. It's a little bit more texture on there. It's a little bit more digitally texture. And then the frequency crushing, you have a wide range of fussing with the knob here up at the top for dialing in particular kinds of slight digital edge. And we'll probably want to listen to the hi-hat for this. You can hear right at the top there. There, the hat now has a slightly different texture. Or, if you want to explore the D frequency control even more, you could throw it on some kind of track. I'm showing it over an entire mixed track, but it's been captured into digital at the highest fidelity I could. Like I said, this is the new album that I've done. So this is basically a modular synth jam and a lot of stuff that's being captured straight to 2-track. It's a very high quality thing. And if we use D-Freak, we can hear what it'll do on things like this synthesizer lead. And that's actually electric guitar. So you can take a very clean, pure sounding electric guitar lead, throw D-Freak on it, and it turns into a sort of funny, weird synth. And that's the whole point of using bitcrusher type effects like this. Pockey is a AU and VST plugin. It's for Mac and Windows and 2 different flavors of Linux. One is Intel-based Linux, and the other is compiled on a Raspberry Pi 400, which is the Raspberry Pi 4-based thing, which has the little keyboard that it comes with. And so there's also a version of Pockey that's compiled on that. So if you're using one of those and the same programs I was using with it, it should hopefully work. I've heard some reports that some people's Raspberry Pi installs aren't working as well with that. I hope that yours does if you want to use this. And yeah, Pockey is free because my work is supported by Patreon. And there's other stuff which you probably weren't hearing on this track. I am increasingly putting out what I'm calling Airwindows free library, and that is sample collections. I've got the Rickenbacker bass out and the album, which is called Welcome to Free Luna, and it's on Bandcamp. I won't hammer that into the ground, but I has an album out. I have an album. That is using a lot of breakbeat samples that I recorded to be able to use in place of like Amen break, meaning that that's another set of options for not having just to use Amen all the time for breakbeats. Some of them are, tight and grooving, and some of them are maybe a little bit more wonky, but they all work very well as far as being able to use breaky type stuff. And that's coming out next as far as the sample sets are concerned. Also, I have another video from the album coming out too. But yeah, Pockey is here right now. If you're interested in doing your sort of lo-fi hip-hop or anything else that you would be using a proper bitcrush style effect, I think Pockey will do you pretty well. I think it's probably the best of the bitcrush style effects I have done to date. It's got a number of things going on with it which are different from the previous type, because it's always a matter of evolving the algorithms, evolving the tones of the filters and things like that, and also designing it to hit a particular target. And in this case, it is essentially 12-bit and under, and getting stuff to sound right in that kind of situation. getting stuff to sound right in a sort of warm, funky, old school sampler kind of thing. There's nothing specific that it's modeled on, but all the same, I think that it probably will do a pretty good job of illustrating that. And I really hope you like it. I will see you at least next week with another plugin. As far as anything else, I am still plugging away out here. I should be able to return home to my studio early October, hopefully, if things go well. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.